Map sensors. Today's stream is about map sensors and appointment times and a few other things like that. Good morning, it's 9:35. I slept like a freaking log last night. I don't know about you guys. I did not be getting enough sleep. Went to bed early last night, and holy shit, I slept forever. But I woke up hangry. I'm hungry, I want some food. Anyways, map sensors. Enough with the freaking map sensors already. Look, GR guys, VA guys, that's 15 plus. STIs, EJs, only STIs, not WRX. GR STI. So every STI after 08, or 08 and up, I should say. Your map sensor does like 28 to 30 PSI based on elevation. Like, that is a huge range for a factory map sensor. WRX guys or STI guys before 408, you have shitty range. It only goes to 22.8 or whatever it is at sea level. But if you got a GR or a VA STI, you don't need to upgrade that shit. Just because you're going speed density does not mean you need an aftermarket map sensor. I think that's the biggest thing that happens is people think, oh, I want to go speed density, I need a freaking map sensor. You already have a fucking map sensor. You don't need a 4-bar, you don't need a 5-bar, you never need an Omni for anything. Don't ever run that shit. I won't tune your car if it's got an Omni 4-bar on it. If it's speed density. If it's MAF controlled and you happen to have a 4-bar on it, whatever, it's not controlling the engine, that's fine. But the Omni is absolute trash. The offset is wrong. The ECU gets pissed off. The sensor's super vulnerable to noise. The signal's inconsistent. Like, don't run the Omni. Same thing as the Parent. Don't run those. They're crap. Don't do it. But if you have a GR and you're gonna run speed density, you don't need one because yours goes to 28 to 30. I said, like, so based on elevation. Up here, I think I get 30. Sea level, I think it's 28, something like that. And you're not running that much on pump gas, so there's no point. Now, if you have an ethanol car and you're gonna be running, 30 pounds or something like that, then yeah, you can get a 4-bar, but get a cob. Plain and simple, get a cob, or mount the AEM one, the silver stainless one, somewhere in a non-rigid configuration, and run that. The rigid mounting of the map sensors can often cause damage to the sensor internally if they fail. But the cob is the best one. So if you get the cob 4-bar stainless one, the new one or the old gray plastic one, that's the shit. It's a great sensor. Use that one. It has a correct offset that the ECU is happy with. It has good range. It has low noise, accurate readings. Like, it's just the best map sensor on the market. So the cob 4-bar is the one to get. But again, it's not better than your stock one. So if you can use a stock one, if you run less than 20 or 30 PSI, you can use the stock one. Stick with the stock one. Absolutely. Speed density does not mean you need an aftermarket map sensor. Now, if you're older than 07, or if you have any year WRX, then yeah, you need an aftermarket sensor. That's just the way it goes. Yours only goes to 22.8, and shit, I'll do that more than that on pump gas anyways. If you got a bigger than stock turbo, won't do that on stock turbo because then you're just throwing flames out the compressor side, creating tons of back pressure on the engine, increase your chance of detonation threefold. But yeah, enough with the freaking Omni 4-bars. Like, stop buying them. They shouldn't be on the market. They suck. And then just because you're going speed density does not mean you need one. I'm just gonna reiterate that one more time because I see more people filing in here. Just because you're going speed density does not mean you need an aftermarket map sensor. You only need one if you're going to exceed the range of the stock one. And if you have a GR, then you're good, like I said, 20 to 30 PSI. Any questions on that one? There's so much fluff on the market, so much bullshit out there, so many gimmicks and claims and all of that. Like I covered the whole thing with the sorry, I'm in a weird construction zone here. With the fucking boost control solenoids yesterday, right? Like, they go, oh, it lowers your waste reduce cycle by 50%. Like, that's not an advantage. You don't need that. So don't just buy into all the crap that you see on the internet. Granted, you're seeing this on the internet, but this is one of those few cases where someone tells you not to buy something, right? And I do that all the time. I tell people all the time, don't buy that. You don't need that. You don't need that, you don't need that, you don't need that. Because, gosh darn it, you don't need it. Don't fall in for all the gimmicks and shit. There are some things you can buy cheap stuff, and there's some things you can't. Injectors, you can't skip on that. Sorry. You gotta have good injectors. It's one of the most important things. Map sensor is important. Math sensor is important. Injectors are fucking important. Like, you can't skip on those. It's just the way it is. But other things, exhausts, whatever, man. I don't care if you got a straight pipe tacked in, whatever. As long as it seals and I can get a good reading with wideband, like, it doesn't matter. Brand doesn't fucking matter. But, you know, turbo inlets, they kind of matter. Like, it's got to fit. It's got to be strong enough to collapse on you. It's got to seal. Like, that's kind of important. But those aren't expensive anyway. So, the last thing is appointments. I had a customer no-show yesterday, and I checked my work phone yesterday, and he texted me, "Hey, are we still on for today?" Like, you have an appointment, motherfucker. Of course we're still on for today. Don't fucking text me and ask me that shit. Like, I don't sit there and stare at my work cell phone and wait for people to text me. In fact, I prefer you don't, because that has never been the primary mode of contact for me, and it will never be the primary mode of contact. I don't want to have multiple cell phones floating around. I don't want to be paying attention to text messages, Facebook messages, emails, phone calls, fuck, like, no, like Instagram, fuck, I sent you a message on Instagram, fuck you. I don't want to hear that shit, all right? So, primary mode of contact is email. It's always email. I check that multiple times a day. I can do it at my nearest convenience. I can sit on the shitter and go, hey, look at that, emails, and answer emails while I'm pinching a loaf, right? You'll get far better service day in and day out if you email me. You'll get far worse service if you text me. Actually, the worst service, because I don't fucking look at that. I got other things to do. And I'm not giving up my personal number. You'll high think I'm doing that. Yeah, so please email me. I am so happy to answer emails. I stay on top of almost all of them, with the exception of Nick's email. There are no unanswered emails in my inbox right now, with the exception of Nick's. And I try and answer all the questions I can. Now, there are some emails I get that are novels, and I say, bro, like, keep it concise. Don't send me 19 pages of shit, right? But for the most part, I'll answer every question that I possibly can. But yeah, email's always the primary mode of contact. Please contact via email, not via text message. That's the last resort. And then show up for your freaking appointments. I mean, I got people that are waiting months to get tuned. Like, I'm booked into the end of May right now. So a guy that calls me right now isn't getting a tune for over a month. And so if you don't show, like, you're just fucking those other dudes that somebody else could have been in that spot. Somebody else that's going to actually make their appointment could have been in that spot. You're screwing them. And you're screwing me. Like, I could have made money that day, but I didn't, because the guy didn't show up, because I didn't text him. Like, I'm sorry, do you text your doctor, hey bro, we still on for today? You text your Tire-Rama, hey, we still have that tire install going on? Like, I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. And if it does, holy shit, where's your Tire-Rama and your fucking doctor? I want to know. But I just got a data warning for a whole 2 gigabytes. Comical. Anyways, aside from that, today I am working on 3 cars. 2 of them are Dodges, but they're just exhaust things. We're looking at, one of them is a Viper swapped Coronet, a 68 Coronet with like a, I think it's actually technically SRT10 motor, which is very similar to the Viper motor. It's in a 68 Coronet. I helped him troubleshoot some stuff on it. I couldn't figure it out. He actually had to take it to Dodge. Dodge figured it out. All his injectors were stuck shut, which sucks. So he got all his injectors unstuck, or maybe he replaced them, I don't recall. Now the engine runs. That's super great. And we got to do the exhaust on it. You might want to do side pipes. That might be kind of fun. And then later on, after all that's done, we'll be tuning it. So that should be a good time. Another one's just a Challenger. He needs some exhaust work. He's got leaks and codes and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna help him get his leaks figured out and all that. And then the last one is a forced induction BRZ today. I think that's gonna happen on ECU Tech. Obviously, ultimately, that's up to the customer, how much he's willing to pay, if he even wants to do it or not. But email's been kind of splotchy with the guy. I think it's just only because it's a language barrier thing. I don't think English is primary language. So yeah, I think that hopefully we get to do it. Merge on the freeway, one second. Signal, mirror, over the shoulder, go. See how that works? I don't know if people can't get that right. And this is a BMW, and I use my fucking signal. That's something, right? Use your signal. Signal, I always tell my wife, because sometimes she does the whole, like, signaling while she's changing lanes. And I say, signal your intent, not your action. My intent is to change lanes. Here's my signal. Now I'm doing it. Right? That kind of thing. Not the California lane change, which is the 2 flashes while you're in between the lanes saying, this is what I did. Haha, fucker. Right? Anyway, someone sent me a message. What happened? Did I hurt some feelings? We need the smallest range that we can get away with, right? Correct. And how do we realize we need a wider range? Are you talking for EBCSs or text my tire? I'll say Jeep thing. Yeah, I don't understand. The Jeep thing, I don't understand. Joey. I haven't seen you in forever, dude. If you're still watching, hey man, long time. I miss you. I think I accidentally just fucking removed your text or your chat. Okay, so range. Well, with map sensor, it's obvious. Well, to me, it's obvious. All right. If you get a 3-bar map sensor, that means you get 2 bars of boost. One of those bars, essentially, is in vacuum. So if you got a 4-bar map sensor, we get an emergency fucking broadcast right now. I don't know, maybe it's an incoming nuke. I don't know. I don't know. All right, emergency broadcast, little thing just went off. Anyways, so if you get a 4-bar map sensor, that's 3 bars of boost. A bar is 14.5 pounds, roughly. So you just do 14.5 times 3, and that's a lot of fucking boost. So you don't really need a 4-bar map sensor, except there's very few 3.5s that work well. Right? Yeah. Just something to change the current government. Anything. Just fucking chaos. I'm all for it. Our government's been a joke for fucking 2 decades. Anyways, yeah. Different rant for a different day. How do you calculate the range? It's based on how far you're gonna go, right? So with an EBCS, you know, you don't calculate a range because you always get 0 to 100%. Holy fuck, again? I'm getting the beeps, but no message. Does that mean it's real? Yeah. Well, they missed with the first one, apparently. It's still a beautiful day. What the fuck was I saying? Oh, yeah. You always get 0 to 100% on that. So what you do is you manipulate the boost control system so that you get a wide range on it. Typically, that means you don't use the second port. You'll see an external wastegate has multiple ways you can hook them up. You can do it like the factory wastegate with interrupt mode on a 3-port, or you can do it where you use the top port and all that kind of stuff. If you use the top port, you're almost always going to have too low of a duty cycle unless your spring pressure is really light. If you use Chinese made nukes, right? If you use, gosh darn it. If you use the top port on external wastegate where you tee it into the solenoid, and it diverts to the top or the bottom or just the top or the fence, then your duty cycle is going to drop a lot. And so if you do that, you got to have a low pressure spring. Otherwise, if you have like a 1-bar spring and you use that method, you're going to get a full boost like 22%. And that is not sufficient. Temperature changes, elevation changes, barometric pressure changes, you know, all sorts of things will cause your boost to go all over the place. It'll be super high one day, super low the next, right? Like you won't get good boost control because you don't have enough resolution in there. So if you're in that situation, you got to change it up. You got to go to the interrupt mode. Just like it was an internal actuator, then you would go into the solenoid, out of the solenoid, into the bottom of the wastegate. I'm going to make you D's for a fucking breakfast sandwich. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm so angry. And so you need, if you do it that way, then you can run a higher spring pressure. You can run a 1-bar or something like that, and you can keep a relatively high control system. I don't know if you saw yesterday's one. Like, it was very good.
Hi, we're going to get started for you.
Egg, no cheese, and a medium OJ, please.
Anything else for you?
That's it.
Alrighty, your total is going to be $697 at the first window.
Awesome, thank you. No cheese. I'm lactose intolerant. Plus the cheese tastes like asshole anyways.
$6.97.
I'm gonna wall it out. Yeah.
You have an amazing rest of your
Thank
day.
you too. Again? Holy crap. I'm getting another alert again. This is getting ridiculous. Let's check this one. Emergency alert. It's a fucking Amber Alert. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a big fan of Amber Alerts. Too often the Amber Alert is some dad who's been denied access to his kid for a long time, who just wants to see his fucking kid, and some stupid cunt of a mom has been like, it's an hour early and our child's parenting plan says you have to do it. Like, I just don't want to deal with that shit. Thank you. And unfortunately, due to that type of bullshit, I don't pay attention to them. Thank you, you too. I mean, that's partially because I'm a dad who didn't get to see his kid enough. So when I see those, I just don't. It's not usually the case. It's almost always the kid's dad now. Stupid cunt ass moms fucking trying to steal their kid from their parents because they're mad that they got knocked up when they were in college and didn't want to take responsibility for it and blame the guy. You came in me when I was not on protection, and that's fucking nope. So don't send me your Amber Alerts. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, range. I'm sorry. So if you hook it up that way, then you'll get more range out of it. And if you still don't have enough range, then you need to change the spring pressure. Typically go a little lighter. An important thing about boost control and external wastegates is understanding what the spring pressure even means. The spring pressure in an external wastegate is not necessarily what your boost is going to be. The way it's set, right? Because boost is a function of back pressure, right? And with boost control, that's no exception. With boost control, the gate, right, or the valve seat, depending on what kind of boost control we're talking about here, internal, external, it sees exhaust pressure, and it sees the difference in exhaust pressure on both sides of the turbocharger. So if it's an external gate, it's going to be atmospheric pressure on one side and turbine drive pressure on the other, or EGB. Well, it could be exhaust back, right? That could be the muffler side, but you know, it sees between the valves and the turbo, it sees that pressure. Now, that pressure is very often way more than intake manifold pressure. And so they don't have a way of knowing when they calibrate these springs what your engine's going to operate. I mean, at 14 pounds of boost, your system may be so efficient that your exhaust pressure is only 7. Or you have a tiny turbo on your big engine, and at 14 pounds of boost, your exhaust pressure is 30, right? And so a 14-pound spring can't give you 14 pounds in both of those scenarios. Only in one scenario does it give you 14 pounds, and that is when your boost pressure equals your back pressure at 14 pounds. So that's when that spring works. If you have a 14-pound spring and your exhaust pressure is 20, you're going to get like 12 to 10 psi, somewhere in there. If you have a 14-pound spring and your back pressure is 8, you're going to get like 15 to 16 psi. So when I have a car on the dyno that's got a 14-pound spring in it, and it makes 17 pounds of boost, that tells me that the combination is really, really, really efficient at that level. That means that the exhaust back pressure is actually less than 14 pounds. It means I'm not even close to pushing that turbo yet, right? So some cars have gigantic turbos and they actually need lighter springs. And they need lighter springs because the turbo is so freaking efficient because it's so large and back pressure is so low that their gate pressure on a 6-pound spring is going to be 15 pounds of boost. And if that's the case, then when they start adding a little bit of duty cycle to it, it's going to add a ton of boost really fast. And so in that case, that person needs a lower pound spring to control the boost better. Cobb is the best one for Subarus on the market, hands down. guy asked what my go-to 3 and 4 bar map sensors are, and it's the Cobb 4 bar. Cobb 4 bar is by far the best one. It has the best as far in the aftermarket, the best vibration resistance, the lowest noise, the best offset, the most range. Like it's the best setup period. Just like their intake, it's the best setup period. Whee! All right, what's that message? Innovate. I would not waste $1 on Innovate anymore. Their wide bands, I assume you're talking wide bands, unless they have a map. I don't know if they have a map, I've never seen it. But their wide bands are absolute trash. Like it's so bad. Their technology is so far behind. Their reliability is so crappy. Yeah, the Innovate is just the worst one on the market now. I don't use anything that isn't CAN bus anymore anyways, because CAN bus is superior. Any 0 to 5 sensor has susceptibility to resistance. Resistance at the line, input resistance, if there's a pull-up on that circuit or not, right? That's always susceptible to voltage fluctuations and whatever. So like your reading one day or even one pull the next could be different due to all sorts of things. Battery voltage starts dropping during a pull. Well, that's a 12 volt freaking system. It's not a 5 volt sensor. It's 0 to 5 out, but the O2 sensor, it runs off of a 12, and the whole system runs off of 12. So, you know, you can get fluctuations in heater current and all that stuff and get the wrong reading. So, CAN bus, you don't have that. CAN bus, it transmits a digital signal that says this is the value. It is 13025 right now, right? And it doesn't matter if your bus voltage is 12 volts or 14 volts, that data is the same. And so I always use CAN or digital whenever possible now. I don't ever do the 0 to 5s unless it's a situation where you absolutely have to. But those situations are on the decline right now. Yeah, always use the CAN because it sucks to be sitting with staring at your AEM and you have an analog AM. AM now is CAN bus ones, which is good. But staring at your analog AEM gauge and seeing it say 13.8 and looking at the software and the software says 14.7, and you're like, well, that's clearly not the same. And then in some situations, you don't have a way of changing that. And in many you do. You got to go in and change the scaling. But like AM gives you a scale. This voltage is this output. And it gets your ECU into a different value. You're like, son of a bitch, you got to go and, you know, well, did I change the slope now? Is the slope of the value different? Or is it just a straight offset? So if the slope is different because you got a different resistance, or if the offset is different because there's a voltage drop or pull-up resistor, right? You got to figure that out and recalibrate the whole system based on that. And that sucks. Like, that's not something you should have to do. CAN bus all day long for that. And the Innovate stuff, even their CAN bus stuff, is crap. The sensors fail. They do a really bad job of controlling sensor current and sensor temp. They take forever to warm up. They lose calibration all the time. They eat sensors like fucking I eat McDonald's sandwiches. Like, they just, yeah, I don't trust Innovate anymore ever again. I gave that up. It was like AMD for the longest time. I was a huge AMD fan. I was a huge Innovate fan, and everything I use was AMD, and everything I use is Innovate. And then one day I got something else, and I realized, oh, you're not supposed to blue screen every day, multiple times a day. Same thing with Innovate. Like, oh, I can have sensors last over a year, over 3 months. Oh, they warm up within fucking 10 or 15 seconds sometimes. Oh, the caliber. Well, if you guys are still here, my phone is overheating for some reason. I guess that's the Android life. I've never had that happen before. I don't know why it's doing it now. That's a new thing. It must have something stuck. Battery's probably at 50% or something stupid like that, and it was fully charged when I left. And, you know, the Android life, I guess. I almost went to an iPhone, but I just hate iPhone. But, Android is fucking it up more and more often. So I may be going with an Android sooner than later, or an iPhone sooner than later, who knows. Alright, well, I'm here at the shop. I see that the BRZ is already here, so that's pretty cool. It means I can do that at my leisure. One of the Dodges is here already, but it's not pulled inside, so I'm not sure what that means. So I'm gonna go find out, and maybe I'll have something cool to stream later. I'll definitely stream the Coronet just so you guys can check that out for those that care. I'm not a Dodge guy, you know, overall. Typically, I try and hide my identity when I'm working on a Dodge or staying too close to one. But this coronet is actually pretty cool, so I will be checking that out, and I will stream the coronet, provided the owner will let me. Make sure I ask him first. And the other one looks like just a regular black Challenger they got to fix the exhaust on, so that's not exciting at all. But the BRZ is a little red thing. That's a cute little thing. And since it's here already, I can start it early, so as soon as I finish the exhaust, I can fire up all the shit and start that BRZ, so that's good news. And I will likely stream the BRZ tune unless I am swearing way too much and cussing at the software. So we'll see how that works. And that's it. So if there's no other questions, I'm gonna double check chat, make sure that I didn't miss something. Is it in the sun? I mean, it's kind of in the sun. What you were gonna instead? Oh, instead of innovate, something CAN bus. I typically use, depends on what it is. So I use a lot of the Haltech ones. I use the AM now has a CAN bus AM gauge, and that one works really good. Their X line or whatever it is. It doesn't communicate as good with the CAN based engine management systems as I think it could, but because it actually has a pretty slow polling rate compared to most CAN buses. Many of them are running like, you know, 1 megahertz or whatever, and this thing is running like 500 kilohertz or something. So if you have it on a CAN bus with other stuff, everything else has to be slowed down, or you got to put it on its own bus, and that's kind of inconvenient with the AM. But typically the Haltech, the Link works good with the Link stuff, but I do like the Haltech hardware a lot. It actually works really good. And then I guess that's it. Those are the main ones I use. Now for the dyno, we have a Haltech system on the dyno, but if that ever failed, I would replace it with the Ballinger Motorsports, the AFR 500 V3 or whatever it is that now has the CAN bus. That thing is really good. That system is by far my favorite system. You do technically need to calibrate it, but only once, and then it's a hard calibration that stays. I really like that system. But if you've seen it, it's big and bulky, so you can use a 0 to 5 out first a gauge or something if you wanted, and then use CAN to feed your EMS, or you could use the gauge that comes on it. But like I said, it's pretty big. But it is extremely reliable. It controls the sensors really well. The sensor lasts a long time, and you have like 3 sensor options. You can get like a laboratory grade sensor, you can get a testing grade sensor, you can get just a regular off-the-shelf grade sensor, and their accuracy improves and their longevity actually improves with the higher cost. But the highest sensor alone, the sensor's like $400. Like, it is not cheap. Maybe it's $300, but it's a lot of money for a 102 sensor. But it's a really good freaking sensor. And so I like that one because you can use such a range of sensors and that kind of thing. And if I'm going to tune a car like a V8 that's got a carb on it or something, like I can't get it that precise anyways, so I can swap out to the cheaper sensor. But then if I'm going to do something with a Bosch EMS on it, you know, like the Beamers or, you know, a GTR, I'll go to the higher grade sensor because I have the ability to get that finer control. And I know that Beamer or the GTR is not going to pollute the sensor, burn too rich and get it nasty and dirty and shit. Whereas the V8 with the carb is going to puke all over my sensor and fuck it all up. So I have the ability just to unplug one sensor, put the other one in, do a quick air calibration, and go at it. And I really like that. And the price can't beat on that kit. That kit is so inexpensive compared to the other professional grade kits. It's a really good kit. So for tuners, that's an excellent setup for dynos. It's an excellent setup for, you know, cars. You can get it in varying lengths. I mean, it's all kind. It's really good. So the Ballinger Motorsports AFR 500 is really good, and I like that. But for the most part, if I'm doing standalones and shit, I'm using CAN-based, either Haltech or Link or something like that, or the AM X line. So that's what I recommend for those. EC Tech tuning isn't that great. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like their software very much. It's gotten better over the years, but if you look at like the old original open source stuff, that's kind of how it started. I think they ripped off EC Tech like, you know, 20 years ago, whatever it was, 15 years ago. And so the format and everything was really similar to what ECU Tech was. It's gotten better, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of how the software works. It's a little cumbersome to me. But I haven't fucked with it in months, and I've heard they had some big updates, so I still have to download the update to my laptop. I haven't seen it. So I'll be doing that today later on before the tune, obviously, and see how that goes. I definitely like the Cobb stuff way better. To me, the Cobb feels way more intuitive. The difference between high impedance and low impedance injectors. Okay, so Subaru uses high impedance. In fact, almost all modern cars use high impedance. Low impedance injectors was something from a long time ago. Those are usually the big body fat injectors that are really shitty. And the reason they were low impedance was because they were such shit injectors. They needed a ton of current to actually have them open. High impedance don't need a lot of current to open, and they're more precise. So high impedance injectors are way better. Almost every injector now in the whole aftermarket is high impedance. Only garbage injectors are low impedance. Subaru uses high. Everybody uses high nowadays. Definitely use high. They require less current to drive, and that's good because if you have a lot of injectors or big injectors and you turn a lot of power, your injectors will bleed down your battery voltage. Your coils do, your injectors do, your fuel pump does. I have a couple of cars that the alternator, the factory alternator, it can't hang. My car alone, my RS, I had 2 fuel pumps in it. That with the injectors and coils, the battery voltage drops. I get like 11.5 at the end of a pull, which sucks because that means my spark is weaker, and my fuel pumps aren't pumping nearly as much fuel. So I need to get a bigger alternator for the car, and having a low impedance injector would be even worse. I would draw down voltage even more, and that would just be a bad news bears. Plus, they have shit response time and everything else. So high impedance is definitely the way to go. They're usually smaller body. They're more effective, more efficient, more precise injector anyways. Injector dynamics, like I said, in my opinion, only injector in the world to buy. Unless you're some crazy methanol only burning car and you need to have 5,000 cc injectors. In that case, ID has nothing for you, and then you got to go buy some fire hose nozzles and then just squirt it in there or something. So let's see. I had to put GR in the 06. Yep, that's true. The GR alternator definitely has a little more poop. Which is weird though, because the part number is the same and says it applies to everything before it as well. And so that was kind of interesting. I acquired one from a junkyard and it said it was a GR, but I think it was actually like an 06 WRX or something. And it didn't pick voltage up at all. But I have in multiple cases gotten, that's a good word, such a great word. I have acquired relatively new GR alternators and put them in GDs to fix voltage drop issues. Now, whether or not that was because the GD alternator was just wearing out, or whether it's because the GR alternator has that much higher of a range, for current, I don't know the answer to that. But I have definitely fixed it with new alternators. So, yeah, fuck DW. Yeah, OEM for sure. So that's something that I should probably talk about really quick. I wanted to talk about this morning. I forgot about it until just now. You reminded me. Thank you. Yeah, I think I told you to do it too, didn't I? So what I want to talk about is OEM stuff, right? So in the aftermarket, so often you have parts that are sourced cheap from China or whatever, and they're, they're good enough, right? And a lot of these aftermarket manufacturers, they find something that's good enough, and they do it, and they start having different high failure rates or kind of weird results or whatever, right? Because they got something that was just good enough. And the OEMs don't do that for the most part. I mean, unless it's something post-production and it's like a recall thing, then they might do it good enough. But during the initial production and the design, parts aren't allowed to be just good enough, right? The parts have to exceed their specification. The specification is usually well and above what the car will ever see anyways. And so in certain areas, the OEM is definitely way better because the parts aren't just good enough. They're made really, really well. Now, there's some areas where the parts are designed to fail over time, and certain wear items and that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of stuff where car manufacturers, like Subaru, wants a car to go 300,000 miles. Nowadays, that won't happen anymore, but they used to do that. BMW wants it to go 100,000. They even said they think life of the car is 100,000 miles. Outside of that, they don't give a shit about your car. So like your BMW stuff is good for 100,000, and then that's pretty much it. So it really depends on the manufacturer, what their I guess what their whole boy, my brain is just, it's because I'm hungry. I haven't eaten yet. Let me get some orange juice here. You know, it just goes on what their strategy is, you know, what their belief is, and what their automobile should provide you. You know, the ultimate driving machine. You're only allowed to drive for 100,000 miles, I guess. I don't know. That being said, I'm in the BMW right now, but it's a lease, and I'm probably gonna give it back. Tolerance to usage. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Yeah, a Subaru STI is not doing 300,000 if it's driven like an STI driver wants to drive his STI, right? No, you're fine. That is definitely a valid term. It just isn't directly translated to English as good. But no, you're absolutely correct. You know, and how you use it affects its lifespan for sure, and how it's intended to be used with its design and everything. No, you're good, man. I appreciate you stopping by, anyways. Yeah. Yeah, your input is welcome all the time. Yeah, so absolutely, how it's intended to be used versus how it is used is a huge factor. You know, they don't anticipate the Hyundai Accent being used as a rally car, right? So should you treat it that way, then you're going to have issues, right? And the Dodge Demon, they don't intend you to use that as a commuter, and if you do, you're not going to get the most out of it, you know. But at the same time, horsepower wears shit out, so you know, they probably say, we built it for like 60,000 of abuse, right? And if you drive it really nice, then you might get 100-something K out of it, right? That's absolutely possible. So, as I've said in other streams, and some of my lessons, you know, at the whiteboard, as cylinder pressure goes up linearly, cylinder wear goes up exponentially. It's a lot like wind resistance, you know, on the freeway. The wind resistance at 60 versus 70 is a lot greater than from 60 to 50, right? It starts to exponentially increase, and so does wear with RPM. As piston speed increases linearly, cylinder wear or ring wear increases exponentially still. So cylinder pressure being a direct function of the power output, and then RPM or piston speed being a direct function of RPM. Basically, that means the more often you give it the right foot, right, the faster it's going to wear out, and there's nothing you can do about that. You can go to some boutique, you know, treatments and materials and that kind of stuff, and you're still going to have that same trend. It might be less wear, but that trend will always be the same. Your wear rate will always be exponential with a linear increase in cylinder pressure and speed. For a second there, I'm going to check out this and eat my sandwich, and then get to work, and I might fire it at the stream a little bit later, based on if there's anything worth sharing with you guys, or something you guys might be entertained with. So thanks again for stopping by, and I'm gonna end the stream now and eat my breakfast and get to work.